Hello, everyone. This is Ernie Humphrey, the CEO of Treasury Webinars. I would like to thank everyone for taking the time to join us for our webinar today, 2020 Year in Review, COVID Chaos, Trends, and Virtual Evaluations. As you are aware, I'm going to give you a little camera action today because I'm going to try and be a little bit more humorous. I know it's hard to believe that I'm actually humorous, but I thought I'd give the old webcam a try. And this webinar is going to be my webinars are always a lot less formal than you would see, but it's going to be even more so today. So strap in yourself and buckle your seatbelts, I should say. There's going to be a lot of polling questions, and there's going to be a lot of wardrobe changes. So let's have a good time and let's learn at the same time, which we'd all like to do. I know this year we've all had a lot of Zoom meetings. We all have attended virtual events that weren't the greatest. And so I think I'd like to set the bar a little bit higher. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about what I call my top 10 list. So a little, I don't know, I'm kind of dating myself. I'm a little David Letterman fan. So if you don't know who David Letterman is, you got to find out because he's a really funny guy from Indiana. We're going to talk about COVID, Treasury, and then I really want to just talk about things that matter, really things that have become even more important than ever in 2020. So I think a lot of things that I thought may happen maybe 5 or 10 years out were kind of pushed upon us, which I think was challenging, but I think it was actually a very good thing on many levels. So we'll talk about skill reassessment. I think a lot of us have done that, and if you haven't, you need to do it. We'll talk about how communication was redefined and how we take the lessons learned, right? And we learned some good lessons in terms of communication so far from our post-COVID experience that we need to take back with us. And then we'll talk about a technology reassessment. So the good news for me, very incredibly exciting, was that a lot of companies invested in technology. And so I think if you'd have asked me before COVID, if something like COVID would happen, I would have said most people wouldn't invest in technology, even though it was. A lot of you have invested. You found out this was actually a great time to do so. And if you haven't done that, I think you really need to take a look at doing that. And I'm always here to help you do that in any way possible. You know, I always give it honest. I'm technology agnostic. You should know that if you know me, but if that ever has come across that I'm not, that's absolutely not the case. So some of you have been kind enough to reach out to me and ask for my advice in technology solutions, and I always give it to you straight. Then we're going to talk about professional development, how that's changed, how that should have changed for you, and then hopefully if you have any questions in that area, please let me know, and then we'll do a couple takeaways. And so here is my few of my top 10 lessons here, things we've endured, I should say, the things we've endured that we might not really like all that much. And of course, I'll go start at the top. So number one is going to be stand-up comedians who think they are webinar speakers who think they're stand-up comics, which is me. I think I pull it out pretty well, but some people that have never done webinars, it has to be authentic. Second thing we've endured, people who insist you have your camera on for every Zoom call. That's a huge pet peeve of mine. I absolutely hate it. You know, I'm obviously, all dashing and everything, but there are days that you don't feel like having a Zoom call. So I'm sure we were all like, do I really have to be on the Zoom call? I felt like I was on the Brady Bunch. You got those little screens and everything. So hopefully you know what the Brady Bunch is. Seeing yourself on video hours a day, so that's a little bit disturbing, right? I probably more than most, I don't want to look at myself right all the time, but it is important that we look and see what we're doing and our mannerisms and the things that we do in the eye contact. So that's disturbing for most folks. And then of course a Zoom call at 8 a.m., 9 a.m., maybe you have a break 11 a.m., 1 a.m., 2 p.m. I actually worked directly for a company last year for a while, and my poor boss, I mean, she was on Zoom calls, I'm not kidding, 8 hours a day, and I was like, wow, I couldn't take it. There's no way. And then everyone's a webinar expert, as you came to find out. And hopefully those of you who enjoy my webinars saw that, wow, there is actually an art and a science to a webinar, and someone that doesn't know how to do it is incredibly painful, right? I'm sure we all experience that. See, look, I'm trying to do my little web camera, and it's not technology friendly. So the good news is the sponsor of this webinar is me. So if we have some hiccups, I don't care. All right, too many buzz phrases, and some of these are mine. I apologize. I did a poll today on LinkedIn, but new normal, next normal, new reality. I forgot to put digital transformation. I was glad that we didn't go to conferences this year because I think if someone would have said digital transformation, I might have hit them in the face or something because I'm so tired of that stuff. Too much visual information about the homes of colleagues. I mean, I got my little office, which is pretty sanitary, but some people, you know, they're like, you probably shouldn't. If you're a hoarder, you probably shouldn't have your video camera on. People who take casual dress too far on that Zoom call, you know, and some people, you know, when you start getting into the pajamas and things, I'm like, no, you know, nobody needs to see you in your pajamas. Well, you want to be comfortable, so let your boss take the lead. But sorry if you're a boss, don't encourage. That's a little bit too much information. What frustrated me, from my perspective, because I am a virtual conference person, webinar person, was that I saw people try and pivot away from live events, and I think the providers pretty much panicked, and so they really didn't know what to do. They weren't prepared. So some of the organizations, it was like trying to turn the Titanic, and so you shouldn't be on a conference that takes 2 weeks. Come on, I mean, that's ridiculous. Sorry, webinars, and you shouldn't be charged for a virtual event. Sorry if you do that, but that's just ridiculous. I mean, you can get information. You should be able to get the information that you need and want for free. I'm sorry, paying $600 or $1,000 to go to a virtual conference. I hope that model changes. I know some people say you have to charge so people have a commitment and they see the value in it, but that's completely against my professional nature. Always has been, always will be. And then, of course, I've been guilty. People do not know how to use the mute button on Zoom. Some people, you're on mute, you're on mute. Yeah, you're on mute. But people that are on mute, like every time you're on a Zoom call, I mean, come on, that's a little bit frustrating. So let's go ahead and start. I know you're all like super jazzed for a lot of polling questions. So we're going to try and make these fun. Which of the following caused you the most professional angst in 2020? Those of you who are interested in receiving CTP credits and not just my complete entertainment today, you'll have to answer all of our polling questions. And so there's going to be fast and furious. And so after the first question, I'll do a couple. The good news after the polling questions is you will see the much anticipated wardrobe change, because I know everyone really missed all of my suits, right? So let's go ahead and I'll leave that up for another couple seconds or so. Then we'll go ahead and take a quick peek at the polling question results. And let me see, I got weird stuff going on with my video camera, so let me turn that back on. All right, so let's go ahead and give you a couple more seconds, because of course I got a lot of stuff to cram into the content as normal, right? So let's go ahead, close that real quick. Oh, there I am. All right, let's go ahead and share the results. See, it was, oh, this is really interesting to me. And I heard this myself. So over half of you maintaining your work-life balance. So I think a lot of us, that not me, but if you've never worked from home, I think that you might have thought that, you know, working from home, you'd be able to have more enjoyment of your life. You'd be able to hang out with your kids and do all these things and be more productive. And you might have been more productive, but I don't think a lot of people really thought about, right, what that would look like, right? And I think that's something that those of us who are managers need to do a better job of. And now you kind of feel like you're on, right? You're on all the time for work, and it's hard to unplug. So I thought that more of you would be awful virtual events, but I'm glad to see this, because I've seen a lot of surveys that talk about the work-life balance, and so I'm definitely going to share that. So thank you so much for sharing that with me. So I think that's really interesting to me. So if nothing else, Ernie learned something today. So that's always, if you don't learn something every day, you have no reason to wake up in the morning. And if you don't want to learn, then you're going to get lost in the dust in this environment. And so let's talk about, some of you have seen, I've been trying to be a advocate for the Global Recovery Monitor now. I'm a proud member of the Treasury Coalition. And so if you've never looked at any of the great research that's done by the Treasury Coalition, which is led by my friend Craig Jeffrey at Strategic Treasury, you need to check that out. So we started out on a weekly basis way back in February. So we've continued that. We've gone all the way from a weekly to bi-weekly. I think now we're at a monthly or bi-monthly basis. But just some things from the results. I think this one is from beginning of December. So that's our most recent survey. And so, how does it impact the Treasury? So I think that expectations, right, when COVID might not be as significant risk. It just hit the 1 year mark, which I agree with. And so what does that mean? It means we're going to have to function, a lot of us in a remote environment. And so what I say is we need productive agility. So we need to be able to function in any business environment. We also need to be able to empower our teams, and those of us who manage people who are also managers, we need to make sure that they know how to manage people in a remote environment. And one of the big things that we just saw from the first survey question result was that maintaining that work-life balance. How do we promote that, right? So how do we make sure that that happens? Staff departures is probably the most interesting thing from this most recent survey. And so 28% have had staff depart on their own during COVID. So that's interesting to me. Liquidity is still pretty much generally positive. I thought that would have been a little bit less. I think many people have learned, right, since it's been, I don't know, 7-8 months now, but it's definitely a concern. I think a lot of us are still trying to figure out the impact on our accounts receivable side of things. And so we'll continue to focus on AR and cash forecasting and all that good stuff in 2021. But I think that's something to me, which I thought was a little surprising. I'm glad to see that. And then economic outlook. I mean, I'm not trying to be Scrooge or Grinch, but where you stand depends on where you sit, right, in terms of your industry. But in general, the economy, and I think we're going to see not only from COVID, but I think the recent election change here in the U.S. is going to have some impacts. And I think it was kind of a free-for-all here in the Wild West in the U.S. And I think I got a little bit out of control. So I think we're going to see more regulations coming. I don't want to be, cause too much, but I think there's a little bit too much Wild West going on in the U.S. But the good news is I think we will become more of a world leader and a world partner. So it'll be interesting to see how all those dynamics play themselves out here. So I just want to dive in a little bit more here with the survey results. And so this has got the most information on it, but this is probably the most interesting graph to give you a sense of the entire survey, how long it's been around. And so it's just interesting to see, again, where you stand depends on where you sit, but it's really interesting to see, how different things have kind of gone up and down. One of the things, that we saw was business continuity plan. The good news is out of the gate, we knew we didn't have that in place. And look at safety protocols. They've finally gone up to number one, being ready, because I think some of us have gotten to go back to the office. Country preparedness, I think that's interesting. Really, it depends on, where you sit, but let's look at how that has taken, almost the whole year to get up to second, right, in period 14. And that's interesting. I think one of my favorite ones was one of the things that I saw was access to liquidity out of the gate. In period 1, people thought, it's going to go away. But then after one cycle of 30 days, I think, we've seen that. But then look at what's number one now, right? Access adequate liquidity. And so I think companies, are starting to think about, okay, this thing is going to last deep into next year. And that includes events. And so I would love it if I would be able to see you all in person. You could see all my jackets and I could entertain you in person, but it's not happening, folks. Sorry. I mean, it's just not going to happen. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later. This is kind of interesting, the staffing drop. And so estimated changing in your industries. Again, where you stand depends on where you sit. Net contraction, right, is from the previous periods, the 33 to 34%. And the survey respondents, I think, they're well in the thousands, at least over 1,000. This is a really good, robust survey, and Craig's been able to keep the response level up. And so, to me, that number is It's about right. I might have expected it to be a little bit higher, but what does that mean, right? You can either take that and be scared or see it as an opportunity or see it as motivation, right? You need to stay on top of your game. You need to have the right skill set, especially those of us in Treasury. It's a very sought after role, and I didn't really know this. So I was in Treasury at a middle market company. I was rock star. I was AFP. I was, Mr. Everything. But then when I wanted to go back, when I wanted to change positions from my position in mid-market company, I was like, my friend worked at PN. He knew a lot of people at PNG, and he's like, and I was like, dude, I'm in. PNG's gonna take me in a second. And as my friend basically told me, the treasurer basically told me, I don't care if you like you'd have to split the atom to get in the queue for Treasury here because everybody wants to get into Treasury. And so if you're in Treasury, let's make sure you take advantage of that opportunity. If you're not in Treasury yet, you might want to get yourself in at a little bit of a lower level and kind of earn your way up the ladder if that's really what you want to do. So personal experience there. And this is what I mentioned before on conferences, it goes hand in hand, right? Business travel, and Craig, I think, put it well. Business travel not in 2021, right? So if you look at when people are expecting business travel to kind of get back to normal, we have, let's see, I'm sorry, I'm leaning in, but I got to see this 50% say Q4 of next year or later. So it's an entire year. So, if anyone thinks they're going to have a conference, live conference and get 6, 7, 8,000 people, it ain't going to happen. Not that we don't want to go, but your companies, they're not going to let you go. So, let's be ready for the virtual world. And I'm going to be honest. I mean, I have a vested interest in that, right? Because I do virtual events, but that's just the world that we live in. So let's go ahead and let me navigate up here to my I got a brand new gaming screen for Christmas. It's like scary how big it is. So let's go ahead and launch our next polling question here. All right, I think it's time for a wardrobe change. So let you guys know on that question for a little bit. Ask if you took inventory of your skills, and that's something that we should do every year, but I don't think most of us do that. Hopefully, we've been motivated to do that, not by ourselves, but from anyone else, even if it's fear, that's okay, right? But just curious if you've done that or not. Again, if you're interested in receiving CTP credits, you'll have to answer all of our polling questions here today. We appreciate everyone's consideration in answering all of our polling questions today. Let me go ahead and give you another 5 seconds. I'm sure you guys are quick on the draw because I'm going to have like a whole bunch of polling questions and you all want to see another suit. So let's close that real quick. Preview my Purdue Boilermaker cert, best school in the country, by the way. My son goes there. I'm on the board of directors, so boiler up. So let's go ahead and share the results. Interesting to see. 40% of you, yes, in Q3 or Q4. I appreciate your honesty. So I might have thought more people might have been a little bit more in Q2, but I guess if I'm thinking about it on the fly here, it makes sense because I think people are only really starting to understand how long. I guess it's going to be. I hate to use the words new normal, but I think that's what we're in. And so if you are recognizing that, then good for you. The 15% of you got to do it. I mean, I don't know, maybe you're a super rock star and you've been a treasurer at P&G for 30 years, but you need to do it. Sorry, I don't care how old you are. You don't know everything. Sorry, neither do I. So your homework is to, do that. And let me know if I can help you with that. One of my strategic partners, I'm going to be much more involved on the career development side next year. Mike Richards at the Treasury Recruitment Company, he's got this Treasury skills wheel. It's pretty cool. So let me know if you're interested in seeing that. But you'll be seeing a lot more of Mike and I together in 2021. And Mike and I will be exploring the new world of LinkedIn Live together. So hopefully you'll find that cool and interesting. And of course, it's going to be different and exciting. And Mike's going to have to put up with my loud jackets and stuff. So we'll just have to see if Mike is really up for that challenge or not. And so this is important. I forgot to mention, if you'd like a copy of the slides, as always, please shoot me an email at Ernie at treasurywebinars.com. And there's a lot to go over here. I'm not going to read off the slides too much. I think I did that too much in 2020, so I apologize. But this gets you thinking, right? Even if you did that skills assessment, you might just do it again, right? What do I need to get better on? And also, especially if you're a manager, this is really cool. You think about, okay, where's my team at? Where do I want them to be? How do I get everybody up to that certain level? And how do I get them to cross-train each other? But obviously, we have to be tech-based, right? And some of us have had to learn automation on the fly. Some of us had to, figure out how to pay our suppliers and get paid, and some of us had to get visibility into our accounts more in Treasury. Maybe we had a TMS, AP automation, AR automation, communication. I mean, I've been waiting for this because this is what I'm good at, right? But that's what it's all about. Communication, communicate and motivate, and drive performance. But I have blogs on all this good stuff. You have to be a storyteller. If you've never done this or never participated in this, or you should listen to or create a session, whether it's virtual, send people a little gift card phones. Do a session on listening. They are absolutely fascinating. I still don't listen well enough, but the best session I've ever had in corporate life. I lived in this really stuffy world in a cubicle, publicly traded company, and the sales VP did this thing on listening, and I was just like completely fascinated. I was like, this is stupid, and I was just like, wow, this stuff, it really matters. And there's also an art to virtual listening, like emails, right? And I have articles on that as well. And this is kind of goes along the same way, communication. So for me, we always had, the three little words, people, process, technology. For me, that's changed. And so when I go forward, I talk about communication, collaboration, technology. You need to be able to communicate before you collaborate. You have to build that relationships, and then technology is really the fuel to giving you the time to collaborate, right, and to communicate more effectively. You have to be growth oriented, but I think the other one is you have to have a passion for learning. You have to be able to go outside your comfort zone a little bit. I think that's important, and be authentic. You got to be passionate about the Treasury profession. You got to be passionate about what you do. You have to be tenacious. I mean, like I said, Treasury, you don't like it when you first start in Treasury, but you get to go into the weeds, and you're like, man, this is like a root canal. But that has been invaluable to my career because I know every little nook and cranny of Treasury from A to Z, supplier onboarding, every single nook and cranny, and that's been incredibly valuable. I mean, but now it's really valuable to you as you're looking at automation, right? What's the value proposition? What are the pain points? And so it's incredibly important. And then this one I like on the bottom, this chart was actually, I worked on this. I think APQC did the majority of the work with that. I worked with them on a survey on Treasury metrics. Rachel Collins, who works at APQC, she did a great job on this and the survey write-up that we worked on. Have the courage to say no. I mean, sometimes you have to say no, and you might be able to get away with it in 2020. You can say, I had too many Zoom meetings, so I told you no. But you have to have the courage to say no. You have to have the courage to say no to Zoom meetings. And I have, Ernie, you have articles on everything. I do, because I like to document. I'm not very smart, so I like to write stuff down. But you have to learn how to say no to a Zoom call or a Zoom meeting. Why am I coming here? What am I doing? What value am I getting out of it? And then as a person that puts that on, there's an art to that, and you have a reputation. So people want to come to your Zoom meeting, they want to come. So that's a key part of communication as well. My nasty little screen here is not working for me. So I'm going to tell you a joke. No, I have people always say you're a stand-up comic, you need to tell me a joke. And I'm like, it doesn't work that way, people. It's got to be organic. I mentioned this a little bit earlier. This is the Treasury skills wheel. Goes along with what I just talked about. This is from my friends at the Treasury Recruitment Company. By the way, Mike doesn't pay me anything, so that's not what this is about. I love what he does and how he does it. And if I had more time, I would devote more of my time into what Mike does, and he does it right. So that's why I work with Mike. Really, there's a more formal process to this. So not only for you, for your own career, but also your team, which is incredibly important. And one of the things that Mike does, he's recruitment, but Mike It also teaches folks not only how to manage your career, but how to help your staff manage your career. Wouldn't you love a boss who helps you manage your career? Wow, that's a little concept, isn't it? So let's talk about, communication redefined. I'm gonna have a polling question here. So I know you all were ready for that. All right. All right, asking you, how many Zoom calls or Microsoft Team calls have you been on in 2020? You're less than 10. I envy you. 11 and 25. That might be a week for a lot of you, maybe a day. 26 to 100, 101 to 250, or too many to count. Again, I appreciate everyone's consideration in answering all of our polling questions here today. Those of you interested in receiving CTP credits, you'll have to answer all the polling questions. And if you're interested in CTP credit, if you signed up to get CTP credit when you registered, you'll get that automatically. If not, please send an email to Ernie at treasurywebinars.com. Another note on that, I love you all, believe me, I do, but I'm a one-man show. And if you send me nasty emails why you didn't get your CTP credits, Ernie's gonna get cranky about it because I do the best I can. So let's give Ernie a little bit of break on that. So let's go ahead and close the polling question. And let's share the results. And this I'm gonna share as well. This is amazing. 44% have had at least 100 Zoom calls. I should ask, how many video calls did you have before, right? 2020. If you had 250, that's ridiculous. I'm sorry, but I think I can do a better job of, I guess I would couch that as business, and trying to engage with people, but that's insane. We spend too much time in Zoom calls and meetings instead of actually doing things. And so if you had 250 or more, I'm going to have to apologize on behalf of everyone who owns a company, because that is insane. But it is what it is, right? Hopefully we'll do better. So let's talk about the foundation of communication, what really matters. I talked about a lot of this on my recent webinar with Mike, so I apologize if some of you think this is repetitive, but you get to look at my suit. So I think I'm on my third suit, so that's good. Again, I said listening. If I have a lot of weaknesses, but this is probably my biggest weakness, and I still work on it. If you really listen, and part of listening is getting people to communicate with you, but if you listen, I had a CEO would freak me out. He had the master of the dramatic pause. He would look at you, scary eye contact for like 2 minutes, and you'd always keep saying stuff. And so I'd start speaking in tongues or something. He'd be like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I don't know, you're making me nervous." So if you're known as a good listener, so especially, transfer your skills, right, both ways. If you're a good listener at home, can you listen at work? But part of listening is you have to get people to speak with you, right? You have to engage people. They have to trust you. Those of you who know me at all, never met me in person, probably listen to one webinar. To me, authenticity and honesty is key. And I think one of the good things about COVID was I think we've all had to be a little bit more honest. And I think some of us have become more authentic. And so I think that's an amazing thing. And I think the good news is I think businesses are getting more open to honesty. I've actually been terminated because of my over honesty before, and I'm not ashamed of that. That's who I am. You need to be proactive instead of reactive. And so when you really get to know someone, you can kind of see when something's coming, maybe something's bothering them, and it's like, "John, how are you doing?" Right? Maybe it's just a touch point, but don't blame people if they make a mistake. Don't attack them out of the gate, especially if it's something that's really out of character. You can just softball and say, "John, you're always like 100% on point. I don't expect perfection. This is just a little bit out of character for you. Is there something going on? Is there something that I could have done better for you?" Instead of attacking people. So don't be reactive when someone's already way down the slippery slope and is having a big issue, and it's really, really detrimental to their performance and your performance. And then it becomes a blame game and a finger pointing game, and nobody needs that. This is one thing that I've encouraged folks to do all along. Post-COVID, should have been doing it before. align on your perceptions, right, and reality. So, especially if you're at work in person, some people have perceptions. You have your perception about what's going on, right? And then there's the reality of how people actually perceive what you're doing. So for me, this was a big eye opener for me in my career. So for me, I put my head down, I got my stuff done, always got it done. Everyone, my execution was just completely off the charts. And then my boss said, you're a likable guy, but most people, they don't like to work with you because when you go from A to B, you're running people over all the time. And I was like, I didn't intend to do that. Look at you, people who know me, like you're the nicest people, and I'm a nice person. But when I would step on the battlefield of work, I would just get laser focused, and I would just like, and I wasn't doing it on purpose. And so that was a reality. I had to say, wow, that's a reality. My perception, I need to understand what people perceive about me. Sometimes you can't control that all the way. However, you need to kind of gauge that a little bit, and then you need to learn how to have a deliberate discussions versus arguing. Shame on me. In 2000, probably since Trump was elected, I've argued more than I ever have in my life. So I hopefully that didn't come across to anyone on the webinar. Deliberate discussions. There's a way to have a conversation. And I think some of that's a learned behavior. So I don't like role playing, but I think it's important that people learn how to do things without emotion. And a good part of having a deliberative discussion is really listening to someone. So you're like, wow, Ernie, you are Dr. Phil. I should be a psychiatrist, right? All I have to do is look at myself and I'd be a complete genius, right, on psychology. So a little more on the art of listening. I have a hyperlink down there. And I guess I read these off the slide because I hopefully they'll sit in on me. Sometimes and people are like, you don't do this, and you're right. At least I know it. You got to stop talking. You have to be prepared to listen. Don't multitask. Even it's hard especially if you're not on camera. Listen. You need to learn how to put your counterparty at ease. Sometimes people are intimidated. Maybe you're higher up the corporate ladder. Maybe you're just a little bit energetic and passionate like me. Maybe someone has something. You can tell when someone's nervous and maybe they're doing something wrong. They want to own up to something. You have to put them at ease. It's like if you have kids, this is where you really need to transfer that, right, to work. You have to make your children feel comfortable. I'm sorry that I have some beeping noise. I think they're putting something in my driveway, so house cleaning time. You want to move distractions like a beeping noise there. There's an art to being patient when you listen. So as I mentioned, my past CEO, he would just sit there, and it's kind of a game. You're not playing games with people, but it's fun to just have a conversation and then just wait. And don't walk away from a conversation, just wait. And usually somebody will fill the air, right? And so you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable and listening and getting people to fill the air themselves and not jumping in. It's incredibly powerful. You have to avoid your prejudice. This is hard at points. Sometimes I think it's wired into you when you hear things, right? Your perception. Oh, here comes John from accounting. I've heard he's a real piece of work. And then, so you're not going to listen to John. You're thinking John's, so that's a hard thing to do. You have to listen to the tone, and then you have to listen for the ideas and don't get caught up in the words. And some people aren't the best at communicating their ideas, I guess I should say, communicating with words. You have to kind of go to the idea. I think this is easier for you if you speak more than one language, because I wanted to learn French many years ago, and I would get so twisted up in trying to understand every single word that I didn't listen, and I couldn't communicate very well. And then you have to watch for nonverbal communication, the skills, the eye contact, the things I'm doing right now. And this is a good thing about Zoom. So I'm watching myself, and I'm doing pretty good today. But haphazardly, I'll look over here. I teach this during interviews, and I do mock interviews. If I'm the interviewer, I'll just sit there and I'll look up in space, and I won't have eye contact, and I'll do weird stuff with my hands or something and just see how they react. And I'll say, this is what you don't want to react to this, but you need to be cognizant that you're not doing this either. Listening to an email. This has been a career curve for me because I was terrible. I was horrible email communicator. I'm still not the best at this. You need to control your instincts to write a response before you finish an email. So I call that listening. And sometimes when we see something that gives us an emotional reaction, we just fly off the handle and do. Don't multitask when you're reading work-related emails. You have to pay attention. It's just like listening, right? If an email outlines a problem that may or might not have caused whatever, do not respond with finger pointing, blame. That's my, well, I already have a lot of pet peeves, you're right. But don't finger point. I mean, I've gotten in trouble for saying, I don't care whose fault it is. Let's move on. If you're in a culture or a company where they play the blame game, you need to think about moving, because that never ends well. Believe me, the finger comes around, it goes around, and it's, yeah, don't do that. And then be patient if you're looking for an answer in an email, and don't get angry, right, in your response. You might want to ask your question again, or how is this turned out? A lot of you pick up the phone and make a phone call. So you ask a question, someone completely misses the mark. God, I didn't ask you that. Well, maybe you didn't ask the question the right way. Mark probably didn't understand the question. Sorry for names, Mark. It just came to my head. And so let's be a little patient with that. Say, I wasn't really looking for this, John. What do you think about this? And so, I mean, again, these things are all easier said than done, especially now when we have so many emails, even more than we ever had before, which is a nightmare, right? Take a breath, is my suggestion. Same with some other things. Don't prejudice the importance of an email. Just because someone sends you a whole bunch of emails, you have to be patient with them. You can control how many emails someone sends to you. I've had this before. I've had people that they don't like confrontation. They don't like to have deliberative discussion, so they do it with the email. And I tell people, I'm like, you need to call me. And if you don't call me, then we'll have an email conversation. And I've done it before. The email conversations with me when I'm not happy are not the prettiest, and let people, they know that. It's just like, and then if someone gets really terse or something, it's like, here's one thing: we're not going to work together anymore, because if you knew me, you would know I have no intention of doing anything incorrectly. I have no intention. Only what I'm trying to do is to help you with my honesty. And if you have an issue with me, I don't like you to try and address it with the email. And then you have to listen to the little bit. Sometimes when you get to know the person, you can listen through the email to the tone, right? And this is down to my golden rule. We'll get to that in a minute. And just like in verbal, you have to look for what was not said in addition to what was said. So maybe you expected a response, right? And then John didn't say anything. Sometimes I kind of read it. I'm like, man, I just poked this guy right in the eye. And then if John doesn't respond, I'm like, okay, he got it, right? He just didn't want to go there, which, is cool. The golden rule, and this has bit me on the rear side a few times in my career. Anytime you receive an email that evokes a strong emotional response to you, wait at least 30 minutes to respond. I don't care if you have to lock yourself in the closet, take away your phone, just have someone take your computer, and then people say, you shouldn't need to do this, but so what? You do it. Get a trusted colleague to read your response and make sure it has the right tone and content. The wrong email to the wrong person at the wrong time can really cause you problems in your career. People should be more understanding than that, but sorry, it's business world, and people are not. Some virtual meeting tips. Hopefully these are common sense. I said some of these earlier, but again, that's what I do. I help people think about common sense. Have your camera on, right, if you want to, not all day, every day. Don't get overly casual. Pay attention to the background, right? I do have a mattress over there, I think, so I am a little bit of a hoarder. That's why I have the dumpster coming up. Pay attention to your mute button. Have a meeting with purpose. I mean, you can have a social meeting, you can have a virtual game, but have a purpose for it. Communicate the purpose of your meeting, right? And ask someone what the purpose of it is. Why am I here? And pay attention to your nonverbal gestures during your meetings. So you're like, oh, God, about time. All right. So this is probably my favorite piece because it's been most valuable in my strange winding career. You have to build your network, and you have to ask yourself these questions. Who do you want to know, right? Within your department, within your company, within the sphere of your profession, Treasury. man, this guy is a treasurer. He knows everyone. And this guy, Aunt P, Craig Martin, I know him. Who do you need to know? Who do you need to know to be successful? Who are the movers and shakers? Who do you already know? A lot of times you know a lot more people than you think, especially if you're active on LinkedIn. And then if you're not really an outgoing person and haven't invested in your network, that's okay. No, I think a lot of times people just panic and think, I can't build my network out of, well, you can, you have to, right? I mean, it is what it is. You know where you are, where you want to go. Let's help you figure out how to get there. Who knows who you want to know, right? So Treasury is a small world, people. I would about guarantee anyone in Treasury you want to know, I bet Ernie knows them. I don't know if they're going to like me or not, but I guarantee I know who they are and they know who I am. So who knows who you need to know? Again, there's movers and shakers. You not only do they connect with you, but when you are seen as a partner of theirs, you kind of ride their brand and their network. And so that can be incredibly powerful. Some people don't think of these things. Unfortunately, we aren't able to do a lot of these things anymore. When we're able to do social events, professional conferences, you can do this at virtual conferences. If you didn't attend my virtual forum last year, you need to do it this year. And I'm going to give you a lot more videos on how to network and virtually at a professional conference. Oh, was that terrible this year? And people didn't use what I had as well. That's my fault for not educating you. LinkedIn, they annoy me, but it's still the best way to do it. Professional associations, they're changing. They still have some value. So some of the AFP events are still valuable opportunities to speak on a podcast or contribute to publication when we can, public speaking. But right now, podcasts, a lot of people are building their businesses on podcasts. And so if you're I support everyone at any stage of your career, but this is true. If you're a treasurer, assistant treasurer, CFO, CMO, and you communicate you want to be on a podcast, somebody will reach out to you and you can be on a podcast. I mean, that's just the way it works. If you're a treasury manager at a big company, right? If you have the experience, if you know your stuff, people will engage you. I get requests all the time. And if I've said no to you, I apologize. I usually don't say no. And I don't think I've ever said no because I like to talk. I think online communities may be coming back. And then this is important, alumni networks. Any of you that are Boilermakers out there, just an example, there's 650,000 of us. So, I mean, come on, let's talk about an opportunity. Just as a marketing person or business development, wouldn't you like to connect with, let's just say, I don't know, 20,000 of those are in finance? That's pretty good. Is your email list 20,000? Are those people engaged? If you said yes, probably I would say, liar. I doubt it, right? You need to manage your network. I mean, I do the best I can. I probably let mine get a little bit too big, but the horse is out of the barn on that one. Ask how you can help your connections. I always do this. I'll ask you today. You need to let me know how I can help you, and I'll do my very best. Stay tuned to what your connections need. You can do this on LinkedIn. It's probably the easiest way to do it since we can't have in-person conferences. You see someone's looking at a TMS or something, if you know that, just reach out to them. Hey, John, I met you here, or whatever your LinkedIn connection. I went through this process. Let me know if I can help. Share relevant information with your connections. And so for me, I think that's what I write. But let's say you like Ernie's webinar recording on cash forecasting. Well, share it with someone. Share it with your treasury team. Share it with your treasury peers. If you're at a regional AFP association, please share content. You guys can walk all over yourselves to do things that you don't need to be doing it. You're too busy. This stuff's already out there. Support your LinkedIn contributions, but don't just click on the button, happy anniversary. If you've done that to me, thank you, but no thanks. It's like, okay, that's great. If you want to write a little note, I like your webinars or that, but don't just click on the button. That's kind of weak. Communicate how it's mutually beneficial to them. So, I mean, I've done that. I try and do that when I see there's a way that I can add value. I try and do that, and maybe I'm a little bit too aggressive. Hey, what about this? What about this? But you need to show them the benefits on both sides, and I try and do that. And the more you do that, especially those of you, maybe you're in Treasury and you're kind of stuck in your job or don't know what to do, people are really giving with their time. And I'd say almost all the time people are. If they aren't, try somebody else. I mean, go Boilermaker, 650,000. And there are relationships that you need to have, and you really don't want to let that relationship momentum come to a halt. And sometimes you have to reassess and say, okay, how do I reignite that relationship? I'm happy to have a conversation with you about that. Often talk about building your brand, right? Again, some of you have seen this before. You're going to see it again because this is incredibly important. You have to learn how to toot your own horn, you know, share your expertise and experience. We talked about these before. Speak on webinars, speak on podcasts, get involved in LinkedIn groups. And then this is from my friend Mike Richards at the Treasury Recruitment Companies. Your brand is what other people say about you when you're not in the room. You have a brand all the time. You're on all the time. The sooner you realize this, the better. It becomes human nature to you. You have a brand at your company with the person that sits next to you, within your department, across your whole company. And guess what? Outside of the office, if you are involved in sports with your kids, guess what? You have a brand with those people. You go to church, you have a brand with them. That's life. Just some things, I won't read through these. If you're not a super expert on LinkedIn, you should look at your LinkedIn profile if you haven't done it in 2020 and you need to change it. You just do. Look at me. I change mine all the time. So that's a whole nother webinar, but you have to have a powerful headline, have a photo, right? And have an appropriate photo. You need to grow your connections. I'm happy to help you do that. Joining groups is an easy way to just send messages to people if you want to connect. You have to be a little bit of a groupie. You need to associate yourself with the movers and shakers. And I got associated with movers and shakers, and as a couple years ago, I got nominated as one of the top whatever influential people in finance in the whole world. And I'm like, thank you, but I don't think that's probably true, but that was because of my association. And then recommendations are incredibly powerful. They started this skills thing, which that became a joke. I'm sorry if you like that, but people were like, Ernie can drive his semi with his feet, you know, or whatever, you know, just stay with his feet in the semi, right? Ernie can split the atom. Ernie cannot do that. And Ernie definitely is not as awesome as you may appear. And some people do that just because they want you to recommend back. For me, that's probably one of my proudest achievements. And sometimes I look at these, if I'm feeling like, I'm not feeling like I'm making an impact. I don't know if I'm doing a good job or what's my confidence. Just read your recommendations. I actually have one in my LinkedIn summary that if I could have paid someone $1 million to write me a recommendation, I would have written this. And this gentleman I worked with, for a while, it was a vendor of ours. It was incredible. I have recommendations. I recommend to you recommendations. If you get one from your boss, someone that works with you, someone that works below you, right? And vendors. I mean, that's like the whatever 360 plus 540. That really speaks to you. I'm a leader. I can be a team player. I know how to be a good customer. And so if I were to look on someone's LinkedIn profile and they had all those from multiple jobs, unless I was doing brain surgery, I would hire that person for the job. You can teach the other stuff. Virtual conferences, this is what we've all been through. A virtual conference is not a group of webinars, not a bunch of Zoom meetings. And so I like to, let's have a little fun here, we call it. Those of you who are a little bit older, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Of course, the good is what I did, right? And I'm not saying that I'm the only one that knows how to do it, but I haven't seen anyone else do what I was doing this year. You have control of your event experience. You have to log in. There's no cost to attend. They have multiple ways to consume content. I had power sessions, 10-minute sessions instead of 50 minutes. You have actual networking. In the platform I was using, you could have access to anyone that was registered to the event. You could see who was at the event, and you could build your profile. It was more powerful than LinkedIn. You could go to the exhibit hall, I call it, on your terms. So there are ways to ways to go to the exhibit hall without being inundated, and it can be on your terms. Ask the questions that you want, get access to content that you want. So some of it depends on how well the providers train the folks, right, on how to be a virtual exhibitor. And a few of my exhibitors really got it, and they got a lot out of it. Then you have to have content that matters. So for me, my content mix is completely unique. I have the tactical things, I have the strategic things. I also have the career building things. So personal development, professional development, leadership, all of those into one package. If you want to get straight technical things on exactly, how to do derivative accounting, not your guy. So the bad again is webinars only, Zoom all day, over weeks, paying for it. So food for thought. If you want to invest your time beyond webinars, of course, my webinars, but please give me a chance on my virtual conference. You won't be disappointed. I guarantee that. If you are, then so be it, and let me know how to do it better. I guarantee no one else will listen to you. You're like, oh my God, you told me about all these polling questions. And so I'm gonna go ahead, and you're also ready for a wardrobe change. So let me do that. How much time do you invest in your own professional development this year? Not at all, a little bit, some less than normal, some more than normal, or quite a bit. You really, it's like, man, I really need to get my stuff together, and I've spent a lot of time using my time at home effectively. So let's go ahead and leave the polling question up for another 10 seconds or so. Again, those of you interested in receiving CTP credits, you're going to have to answer all of our polling questions here today. I'll give you a 5-second countdown so I don't get nasty emails saying you pulled the thing down too much and I can't get my CTP credit. I don't get my CTP credit. Oh no, my life is going to be incomplete. All right, sorry. I should vent that frustration at my valuable attendees. All right, let's go ahead and close the polling question. Let's go ahead and take a peek. Oh, none at all. Shame on you. Sorry, but I believe that. It's great to see. Let's see, math. 41% of you, more than normal or quite a bit. So kudos to you. I think that's great. Some, but less than normal. I hope that you find more time, a little bit, or less than normal, or not at all. I think you need to really think about, right? Sometimes you just get stuck, like, what do I do? What can I do? What am I missing? For those of you in Treasury, I'd look at that Treasury skills wheel from my friend Mike Richards, or shoot me a quick email. Love to have a conversation with you about that. So please keep that in mind. So let's do a technology reassessment. Back-to-back polling questions. Everybody loves that. You got to be paying attention. All right. So this is one I'll probably share as well after the webinar. Did your company invest in technology related to AP, AR, and/or Treasury in 2020? Maybe you didn't. Maybe you did. Maybe you were planning on it and you weren't planning on it and you needed to. So answers are yes. Did you do it in Q1 and Q2, either before COVID really took hold and when it really started to? Maybe it was in Q3. Maybe you're not yet, but you're currently looking. Maybe you plan to do so next year, or maybe you just don't have any plans to do so right now. You're in good shape. You realize this year was a way to go, or there's nothing out there that you think is going to offer you the ROI you deserve, and you don't want to hear the word digital transformation anymore, so you don't want to say you don't want to let out the bag that you're looking at everything which they call fintech now, which is another one of my pet peeves. What does fintech mean? Digital transformation. All right, let's go ahead and take a quick peek at the results. So just interesting. Again, where you stand depends on where you sit. Just great to see. A little bit less than I expected, but good, 30%, right? So far this year, you're looking, that's great. As you all know, we have a lot of resources for that. So please reach out to me. I can guarantee you 1000%. I'll give you the honest answer of what to look for. And if you want, I'll get you on a discovery call with someone that I know after I know a little bit more about what you want to look at. No plan to do so in 2021 again. Hopefully you'll keep tuning in A lot of what I do has a little bit of a technology. It's technology and research and innovation for me. So it's not going to change. All right, thanks everyone for answering the polling question. Some of you have seen the survey results before, but one of the things I wanted to do was like Treasury success, right? In the next normal, which is now, you know, how I was concerned that there was no consensus on how we measure success in Treasury and why, and I was correct. So what we saw, real quick, again, you can get a copy of the slides. Cash forecasting accuracy, that's my success in Treasury. I got a good cash forecast. Why? So anyway, I'm sorry I hid my feelings there, but we need to look at things like cash conversion cycle and things that matter. So obviously, we have an issue with how we measure success, and that's going to be a focus of mine for next year. This is what I tell everyone. Cash visibility is the foundation for success. And so just want to give you a few things. I'm not going to read through these because we only have a few minutes left. I'll get you the slides. Many of you have seen this before. This cash control done right impacts the bottom line. And I learned this becoming an AP expert and AR expert the last few years. There's 10 ways AP done right impacts the bottom line. Here's 10 more. AR impacts the bottom line. This is your business case, right? For your CFO, whatever, who that might be. Now let's pivot to our lessons learned a little bit. And I have to give a shout out to my friends at High Radius. See, I have my orange jacket on, so that's my High Radius jacket for my friends there. But this is really cool in terms of the top 10 lessons. I mean, there's so many things that we learned the hard way. So, you know, so let's make sure that we take advantage of those if we go back to the office. People, right? More focus on employee engagement, invest in networking, right, with your peers and colleagues, and foster a culture of change and adaptability, create a culture where people don't have to be afraid to fail. On your process side, we want to realign our business expectations. We want to understand and model cash flow drivers and understand our cash conversion cycle and impact that is more than cash forecasting. Communicate more and collaborate better. Invest in knowing your customers and your colleagues, right? Look at on the technology side, you want to look at experimentation and innovation. Understand how to right-size technology. You might need to grow into that. And let's focus as we change. Let's focus in on our securities and controls and realize that one thing on this, checks are not evil. So more about that next year. All right, key takeaways. The foundation of what I call success from the survey. You really need a performance management framework. How are you measuring success for yourself, your team, your department? Again, happy to talk with you about that. You got to look at people. Do you have the right people with the right skills? Are you collaborating? Is your team collaborating? Do you have visibility? Do you have the data? Do you have the technology? And do you have control and influence where you need it, when you need it? So this is probably my favorite slide here. So those are the key takeaways that we have today, other than my suit. All right, so let me go ahead and tell you the Treasury and Finance virtual forum is September 7th to September 9th last year. I'm going to go ahead and launch the final polling question, but don't leave because I have one more jacket for you. So please don't leave. I can see if you're leaving. So don't leave because I got a good one for you. I appreciate your consideration. I've got a lot of quotes here of how the forum last year was the best thing since sliced cheese. So, you know, so if you want to do that, take a look at that. I'll send the slides to you. But we're ready to go. It's going to be bigger and better than ever. So let me give you a few more seconds to the polling question up here, and then I'll go ahead and show you my jacket here, the final jacket of 2020. Also, if you like the seeing me live and like the jackets, let me know, and I'll consider whether I want to do that again going forward. So I'll give you a few more seconds. Thank you so much for answering that question. So here's my favorite quote of all time. So I'm getting a motivational on you guys here a little bit. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your inner voice. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. dramatic pause. So thank you so much, everyone, for taking the time with me. Thank you for your support, whether today's your first webinar, whether you've been a supporter of mine over the years. I sincerely appreciate that. Please help spread the word if you like what I do and how I do it. I only do what I do for the Treasury and finance professions. And of course, I make a living at it. That's because I'm very fortunate to do that. So thank you so much. And those of you who have friends and family on the front line of COVID every day, I sincerely appreciate that support on behalf of all of us that don't make the sacrifices that your friends and family make every single day. And finally, to everyone, please have a safe, happy, healthy new year, and please let me know if there's any way I can ever be of assistance to you. Make the rest of your day great, everyone. Take care.